Imagine this for a second. You're sitting at your desk. Your book is open. Your phone is face down. Your brain says, I don't feel like studying today. And instead of panicking, you still study. No motivation. No hype music. No, I will change my life from tomorrow's speech. Just calm focus. Sounds impossible, right? But for many Japanese students, this is normal. They don't wait to feel motivated. They don't argue with their mood. They don't romanticize hard work. They simply sit down and do it. So the real question is not, how do they stay motivated? The real question is, how do they stay focused without motivation? Let's talk about that. And don't worry, this isn't some strict, scary, robotic system where people study 20 hours a day with no emotions. It's actually much simpler and a little funny too. First, here's something surprising. Japanese students are not magically more disciplined than everyone else. They get tired. They get bored. They procrastinate. They also stare at the ceiling and question their life choices. The difference is not who they are. The difference is how they think about studying. In many places, studying depends on motivation. You wait until you feel like it. You wait for energy. You wait for inspiration. Japanese students don't do that. They treat studying like brushing teeth. You don't wake up and say, I don't feel motivated to brush my teeth today. Maybe tomorrow. No, you just do it. Not because you're inspired, but because it's normal. That's the first secret. They remove emotion from the decision. Let's break this down with a simple example. Imagine two students. Student A says, I'll study when I feel motivated. Student B says, I study at 7 p.m. That's it. Guess who studies more? Student B doesn't wake up every day and fight their brain. They don't ask, do I feel like studying? They ask, what time is it? When the clock says 7 p.m., their body moves before their brain complains. Japanese students build fixed study times, not emotional study times. Motivation becomes irrelevant. Now let's talk about something very interesting. Japanese students don't try to study for long hours. They aim for short, repeatable focus. Instead of saying, I will study for 5 hours today, they say, I will study for 25 minutes. That's it. 25 minutes is not scary. Your brain doesn't panic. Your soul doesn't leave your body. Anyone can survive 25 minutes. So they sit down, study, take a short break, then repeat. Focus becomes easier because the goal is small. And here's the funny part. Most of the time, after 25 minutes, they continue anyway. Not because of motivation, but because starting was already done. This leads to the next secret. They respect momentum more than motivation. Motivation is emotional. Momentum is mechanical. Once you're moving, staying focused is easier than starting again. Japanese students design their system to make starting stupidly easy. Open the book. Read one page. Solve one question. That's enough. No dramatic promises. No perfect conditions. Just movement. Now let's talk about the environment. This part is very important. Japanese students don't rely on willpower. They rely on setup. Look at a typical Japanese study space. Clean desk. Minimal items. No unnecessary distractions. Not because it looks aesthetic for Instagram, but because the environment decides your behavior. If your desk has phone, snacks, random papers, 5 different gadgets, your brain will jump everywhere. So instead of saying, I need more self-control, they say, I will remove the problem. Phone goes away. Only study materials stay. Now focus becomes natural. Here's a funny truth. Willpower is like battery life. If you use it all day, it dies. Japanese students don't waste it on small decisions. They wear similar clothes. They follow similar routines. They eat similar meals. This reduces decision fatigue. So when it's time to study, their brain is not tired from choosing. Focus is preserved. Another powerful idea, they separate effort from mood. In many cultures, people say, I'm not in the right mood to study. Japanese students say, mood will come after action. They don't expect focus first. They expect focus later. They understand something very simple. Action creates emotion, not the other way around. So they sit down bored and slowly become focused. Not instantly, not magically, but naturally. Let's talk about expectations. Japanese students don't expect studying to be fun all the time. This is huge. They don't say, studying should feel exciting. They say, studying is sometimes boring. That's okay. When you stop expecting enjoyment, boredom stops hurting. It becomes background noise. Like rain outside. You notice it, but you still move forward. Now here's a cultural habit that helps a lot. group pressure, but in a healthy way. In Japan, studying is often a shared activity. Students go to libraries, study rooms, cafes with quiet rules. When everyone around you is focused, you naturally focus too. Not because someone forces you, but because humans copy behavior. Focus becomes contagious. Even when studying alone, many Japanese students imagine being seen, not judged, just observed. This creates a sense of responsibility. You don't want to break focus for no reason. It sounds small, but it works. Another secret is clear purpose, not emotional purpose. They don't constantly hype themselves with dreams. They know why they study in simple terms. To pass this exam, to enter this school, to improve this skill. Clear, concrete, no motivational posters needed. When purpose is simple, focus is easier. Now let's talk about mistakes. Japanese students are not afraid of being bad at something. They expect mistakes. In fact, mistakes are part of the process. So they don't lose focus trying to be perfect. They focus on repetition. Wrong answer? Okay, try again. No drama. This removes pressure, and pressure kills focus. Here's another funny habit. They often start studying before they're fully ready. Not after cleaning everything. Not after finding the perfect pen. Not after watching Study With Me videos for 1 hour. They start messy. Because clarity comes from action, not preparation. Now let's talk about rest. Japanese students don't glorify burnout. Rest is scheduled. Breaks are planned. Sleep is respected. Because a tired brain cannot focus, no matter how motivated you are. They understand that focus is a physical state, not just mental. There's also something called routine memory. When you repeat the same study routine every day, your brain remembers it. You sit at the same place, at the same time, with the same setup. Your brain says, "Oh, this again. Okay, focus mode on." You don't need motivation anymore. The routine pulls you in. Now let's address something important. This doesn't mean Japanese students never struggle. They do. But instead of fighting focus, they design around it. They don't say, "I need to become a different person." They say, "I need a better system." That's the real lesson. Let's simplify everything into one powerful idea. Japanese students don't chase motivation. They build habits that work without motivation. They don't wait to feel ready. They make readiness irrelevant. Imagine if you stopped asking, "How do I feel today?" and started asking, "What is the next small action?" Open the book. Read 1 page. Write 1 sentence. That's it. No emotional negotiation. Here's a small mental trick they use. Instead of saying, "I have to study," they say, "I'll just start." No pressure. No future thinking. Just now. And just start is much easier than study for hours. Now think about this. What if focus is not something you force, but something that happens when conditions are right? Japanese students focus not because they're stronger, but because their environment, routine, and expectations support focus. So the next time you say, "I'm not motivated," try this instead. Sit down. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Remove distractions. Start badly. If after 10 minutes you still don't want to continue, stop. No guilt. Most of the time, you'll continue anyway. And that's the quiet power behind Japanese focus. No loud motivation. No dramatic speeches. No overnight transformation. Just small actions, repeated calmly, every day. Focus without motivation. Simple, human, and surprisingly effective. Now tell me, what would change in your life if motivation stopped controlling your actions? Probably more than you think.